Is Oklahoma okay? Does everyone in Oklahoma go to church? And does Braums have the best ice cream ever? We're going to answer those questions and more, partner. So grab yourself an onion burger. We're fixing to unbox the state of Oklahoma. Oklahoma, where the wind comes sweeping down the plain. Uh-oh. Looks like a twister's a-coming. We better get Ma and Pa and get down into the cellar, the basement, or the in-ground storm and tornado survivor bunker shelter thing. This looks like a biggin. Well, it's May, so that means every single afternoon we have to be on the lookout for monsters like these. Every year, about 56 tornadoes hit the Sooner State, and based on square miles, more strong tornadoes hit Oklahoma than any other state. In 2019, there were 149 tornadoes in this state alone. That's a lot. That's because Oklahoma is in Tornado Alley, an area where air masses tend to converge and it's relatively flat. But Oklahoma isn't all flat, and it isn't all tornadoes, cattle ranchers, fishing, oil, sports, churches, meth, guns, and Republicans. Okay, it is that. But in order to really figure out which part of the state's best for you, you got to get to know Oklahoma the most proper way you can. And that's by looking at a big old map and then zone into each region one at a time. This is Oklahoma. As you can see, it has sort of a lot going on, and most of the action's in one big area of the state. But in terms of ecological diversity, Oklahoma is the most diverse of any other state. You may not know it, but Oklahoma has more varied terrain and subclimates than any other place in the country, and it's not even close. It has everything from high plains to mountains and subtropical forests and even a mini desert. It's kind of like the south of the Midwest. It's sort of Midwest geographically, but southern in culture. Here's a good guide on the types of people you'll see in Oklahoma's three main regions, the West, Central, and East. Let's begin over here on the far western side of the state first. This is the Oklahoma Panhandle. Now over here in the Panhandle is where the really rich people live. No, it's pretty isolated. Only about 1% of the state's total population lives up here. It's mostly farming and ranching way out here in this three-county region, so I guess maybe it is rich people. A bunch of tall, skinny white men with big ol' Adam's apples. Small towns with country living. Here's the biggest city here, a place called Guymon, population 11,000. Cattle ranching's a big deal in this state, especially way out west. Oklahoma ranks 5th in the country for beef production, and ranching is a big part of the state's culture too. If you looked at the map of Oklahoma's terrain, you'd see that just about everything west of Oklahoma City is arid plains. That's where a lot of the farming goes on. Oklahoma produces the 4th most wheat of all states. You can imagine lots of people around these parts have guns. I mean, this is the birthplace of Chuck Norris. But guns aren't everywhere, and most people don't use them for intimidation. As we'll discover, Oklahomans are a friendly folk. Walk onto somebody's property and you're a threat. But once they get to know you, you're like family. Enid is the biggest city in western Oklahoma. It's kind of a boring, beat-up place with some drugs and crime. There's about 50,000 people here, but it's more of a hub for all the farms out this way more than anything else. If you lead an alternative lifestyle, though, you will not fit in here, sadly. But it's like that in most of the outskirts of the state. Of course, Route 66 passes through this state and enters Oklahoma over here, but a lot of it's lost its charm and has now been replaced by I-40. But if you're into big blue whale water slides and the world's biggest peanuts, it's worth driving along, I guess. Most of this area in southwest Oklahoma is just small towns with nothing really going on. Lots of double wides, rednecks, guns, and mullets. No, that's mean, but it's true. That's why a lot of people are leaving this part of the state. Oklahoma had been growing population-wise. In the early 80s, there was a big population boom because of all the oil jobs. But then there was an oil bust and lots of people left. That's how it works. Currently, Oklahoma's losing more people than the national average, and most of that decline is from the western side of the state. A lot of people are apparently going to Arizona and Virginia for some reason. You'll also notice this map has a lot of yee-yee references. There's yee-yees all over this damn state. Every nook and corner you'll find a yee-yee. What is a yee-yee? A damn redneck with a lifted truck and a mullet. It's an endearing term Okies use to describe their redneck brethren. Southern Oklahoma along the Texas border is a mix of more plains and forest. Again, it's mostly poor, small towns. Lots of places where people are closed-minded, conservative, and poorly educated. But it's like that out in the sticks in most of America. There's an army base over here called Fort Sill right next to Lawton. Lawton is currently a bad place to live because there's a lot of crime. They break the law a lot in Lawton. Ardmore, a city of 25,000 people, is actually the 5th most violent place in this whole state, if you can believe that. Nearby Durant is similarly bad for crime. Good fishing down there near Lake Texoma, though. Durant has the Choctaw Casino, which is massive, but that's nothing compared to the one down here in Thackerville. The WinStar Casino has more than 500,000 feet of casino space, making it the second biggest casino in the whole world. Can you believe that? Way down here in no man's land, Oklahoma. This is Wynnewood, where you used to be able to see live tigers, but no longer. The food is great down here in southern Oklahoma, just like it is in most of Oklahoma. Now, Okies love their deep fryers. They deep fry everything here. Their chicken, okra, rattlesnake, butter, even Coca-Cola. They don't have the best diets in this state. In fact, one report said Okies eat the least amount of fruits and veggies of all Americans. It's a lot of chicken fried steak, barbecue, onion burgers, Dr. Pepper, ranch dressing, steak, and calf fries. Those are bull testicles. It's southern hospitality with western cooking in these parts. When they get out of the house, Oklahomans love to go to Bobo's for chicken, Grandy's for the all-you-can-eat liver and gizzards, which is just gross, or to Braums, which many people in Oklahoma say has the best ice cream in the world. Of course, religion's going to be a big deal in Oklahoma, especially way down here in the south. Oklahoma is the 8th most religious state of all, where 2/3 of residents say they are highly religious. This is the Bible Belt here, pal. A lot of folks are Southern Baptists, but they're not going to get all preachy at you if you move here. They are conservative, but a lot of people here are religious on Sundays, and that's it. Many of them get home from church and crack a beer. Odds are, if you move to Oklahoma, there's going to be 2 groups you're going to have to associate with, either the church crowd or the bar crowd. Sometimes they're the same crowd. And it's also worth noting that Oklahoma has some real deep country music roots. This is home to Toby, Garth, Carrie, Blake, and Reba. Oh my God, Reba, everyone. And Hanson. What? Hanson's from Oklahoma? Moving out east, you're going to find a lot more forest and actual mountains. While a lot of the western side of the state's flat and red, this part of the state's rolling hills and green. The Ouachita Mountains are here, as are parts of the Ozarks. There's a lot of fishing. You may not know it, but Oklahoma has more man-made lakes than any other state. McAllister is here along Route 69. It's also a bad place to live with drugs and crime. Here you'll find the 3rd highest number of thefts and robberies in the whole state. There's a prison here and some oil jobs in the area, and it's a speed trap. Muskogee, Oklahoma is also a small, very dangerous community. It's an old manufacturing/port town along the Arkansas River. Don't move there. Way down here in the bottom part of the state is, you guessed it, more small, poor towns. Idabel and Broken Bow aren't doing very well these days, sadly. Down in the far reaches of Oklahoma, you'll find isolation, poverty, and meth. You probably wouldn't want to move there either, unless, well, you like meth, which is terrible, and you should stop doing that right now, mister. This part of the state is probably the most red part in a really red state. Try to hang a Biden flag out this way and it won't go very well. Oklahoma as a whole ranks number 6 out of 50 states for highest percentage of residents who vote Republican. But for the most part, in the major urban areas we're going to talk about soon, it's more of a conservative libertarian-ish group, kind of a leave us alone type crowd. And this would be a good time to talk about the huge Native American thing going on in Oklahoma. You may not know it, but 2/3 of Oklahoma land is technically a reservation, and Oklahoma is home to 39 different tribes, the most of all states. In fact, about 8% of all Oklahoma residents are Native American, making it the 4th highest such population in the country. You likely wouldn't want to live on Native American land. I don't know if you even could. We're going to now move over to central Oklahoma. Now this is where all the people are. In fact, 7 in 10 residents of the state live in this part of Oklahoma alone. There's all sorts of various places to live here in central Oklahoma, and we're going to go over each of them briefly before we get into the 2 main population centers. Stillwater's here. It's a college town, home to Oklahoma State University. Go Pokes! A lot of the people who graduate from OSU never leave Stillwater for some reason. It's a decent place, you can't blame them. There's a saying in Oklahoma that OSU fans wear OSU shirts because they lived in Stillwater, and OU fans wear OU shirts because they went to Walmart. Seems to make sense, I guess. The big rivalry between Oklahoma State and Oklahoma is a big deal. And if you moved here, you'd have to pick your team before you even picked out your drapes.
I went to OSU.
You did, Mappy? I didn't know that. Wow, you learn something every day. No wonder you carry that gun around all the time. Now it makes sense.
I went to OU.
No, you did not, Karen.
I have friends that went there, though.
No, you do not. Get out of here. Besides football, the NBA is a big deal in Oklahoma, too. The Thunder bring together just about every sports fanatic in the state. And the teeny town of Chakotah claims to be the steer wrestling capital of the world. So rodeos are a big deal in this state too. Way up here are Bartlesville and Ponca City, which are small but nice places to raise kids if you're into that. Broken Arrow's a Tulsa suburb. It's also a very nice place to live. And Jinx is also a very nice place to live, but becoming very expensive. It's one of the fastest growing cities in the state. Sand Springs on Tulsa's west side is not a good place to live. Then we come to Tulsa, T-Town. Now, Tulsa's quite a mixed bag. On paper, this is the most dangerous place in the whole state to live in. This is where you'll find the second most violent crimes per capita in the state. However, the high crime elements are contained to certain areas of town now. I had recently visited an area on the city's north side, which historically has been really bad for crime. But now those criminal pockets have moved. This area is more of a ghost town now. One area that's bad is near the intersection of 64th and Peoria on the city's south side, near all the new Section 8 housing. There's also an area across the river south of the Holly Refinery, where you'll find a lot of drugs and crime. Tulsa's economy's been traditionally dominated by quick-trip cashier jobs in the oil industry, but it's diversifying into finance, aerospace, and technology. In fact, Tulsa's paying remote workers $10,000 to move there for a year, so get in on that. I mean, like the rest of the state, the cost of living here is super low, like 43% below the national average low. Tulsa's a college town too. They have Oral Roberts, an interdenominational Christian liberal arts school, so basically you don't learn anything. Tulsa's becoming more liberal over time as people move in from other states, and Tulsa's improved dramatically in terms of its city's appearance and its drug use. New Governor Kinstead has used medical marijuana taxes as a new revenue to mow the greenways, fix the state's roads, and help prop up the notoriously poorly funded school system, and clean up the litter. Littering has always been a big problem in Oklahoma. It seems like a lot of people here don't know where the trash can is, and sounds like they don't enforce littering laws. I guess you can throw trash out the car window, but go 1 mile over the speed limit, and you're done. Odds are you're going to see a dispensary on every corner in Oklahoma these days. But these medical marijuana taxes have not only helped clean the place up, they've helped the drug-addicted population move over from meth to pot. Look at this. Back in 2013, Oklahoma was in the top 10 for meth use. Now it is not. Good for you, Oklahoma. Over here between Tulsa and Oklahoma City is Cushing, which is nothing but oil jobs. Then we move into the Oklahoma City metro area, everyone. Now this whole area is really spread out. It's an area that's growing fairly quickly, and there's an area for just about everyone. Most of the people who live in the Oklahoma City suburbs are middle-class, middle-aged white people who commute. There's cheap land all over the place here. You can still buy an acre of land with a home on it on a $38,000 a year income. Over here is El Reno, which is a dump. It's sad. Some would refer to El Reno as a ghetto. Yukon and Mustang are smaller communities that are actually pretty decent. Way down here is Norman, which is home to the University of Oklahoma. It's a lot bigger and more congested than Stillwater is. Norman's one of the better places to live in this state if you pick the right neighborhood. The Oklahoma Sooners. The reason they call this state the Sooner State is because during the land rush in 1889, they nicknamed the people who arrived into the Oklahoma Territory first Sooners, because they got there sooner. Lots of people have heard of Moore, mostly because it's unfortunately a magnet for violent, long-track tornadoes. Moore is also booming population-wise, and there's a lot of new homes here, mostly because tornadoes have wiped out the old ones. It too has a lot of beat-up areas and rednecks. Now this part of the metro area is bad, pal. They call this Mid-Del. It's made up of Del City and Midwest City. It's bad for gangs and drugs. You would not want to live in Mid-Del. But you might want to live in North OKC. A good rule of thumb is the further north you get from downtown, the safer it gets. There's an area called Nichols Hills here near Lake Hefner, which might be the richest part of this whole state with all their $1 million homes. Yes, there are $1 million homes in Oklahoma. You'd likely find a lot of in-shape yoga moms jogging along Lake Hefner. They might be one of the few people in this state that jogs. Up here is Edmond, Oklahoma, which has crazy Karens, soccer prodigies, doctor dads, and uppity helicopter parents. If you want to live in a wealthy area, Edmond is where you want to be. And then we have the Oklahoma City metro area. This city can be divided by north and south. You kind of have to stick to your side of town since this city is so spread out and there is no public transportation worth a lick here. Oklahoma City is the second largest city in the country in terms of square miles, so there's all sorts of areas to live in. And despite the fact that there's some animosity between Oklahomans and Texans, a lot of people in Oklahoma City have to admit their city is very similar to Dallas culturally. except Dallas is bigger and has a lot more money. Areas worth discovering in Oklahoma City are the Paseo Arts District, the Plaza District, and Bricktown, parts of town that are artsy and safer and being improved. An area that you would not want to live in would be this area here on the northeast side of town, just east of the Capitol building. Anything along Lottie Avenue is bad news, fella. They can't gentrify that area to save their lives. Literally. Oklahoma is a pretty cool state, and one that you might not have really correctly understood. It's a state of casual dress, cheap living, and wide open spaces. They've got some downright friendly people, the kind who will help you out in a fix, of course, but they're polite here in the most subtle ways. Folks will hold the door open for you or let you get over in traffic. The kind of people, when they ask how you're doing, they genuinely mean it. They're a persevering people, Oklahomans are. They get knocked down and they get back up. They're a hard lick, never quit type group, a pull up your britches and press on, and if that doesn't work, use duct tape kind of crowd. It's the kind of state where they ain't outsmarted, they're common sense. You'd be lucky to meet and know a bunch of old Okies. And if big city life isn't your thing, there's lots of room here. Sure, the lack of culture and diversity and jobs and entertainment might make for some long days, but in many parts of the state, it's the silence that'll pull you in. It's a big state. It's a state of big sunsets and pretty stars. Today, in this country, that's hard to find and appreciate. All right, we did a pretty good job of unboxing the state of Oklahoma, didn't we? I reckon we did. There's probably a lot about Oklahoma that you didn't know about, did you? No. We could have gone on and talked about a lot of other stuff too, like this state's strict liquor laws, or the fact that there's a speed trap around every damn corner. There's a lot of stuff about Oklahoma we could have talked about, but we gotta go. Some yee-yees invited me over for a barbecue and a bonfire, and I'm in charge of bringing the firewood, so I can't be late. Here's a good song. Oklahoma has a lot of yee-yees. Drive out of the cities, they're the ones you'll see. Oklahoma, they're so rednecky, so many trucks and guns. Oklahoma, it's a land of cowboys, it's a land of oil, it's a land of space. Oklahoma, if you move here, you'll be among great, you'll be in some great, you'll be among great friends. Yeah. Thanks to Nick, Cameron, Melina, and Lacey for all their help with Oklahoma. There's some really friendly Okies I'm pleased to have met. Thanks, guys. How would you describe the people of Oklahoma?
I think people are very friendly, more laid back than the West Coast. Very friendly, stranger-wise. More, I guess, Southern manners. I don't know if they're really considered Southern, but Southern manners. People open the door, they'll say hi, they'll wave. Whereas you don't really get that I've seen in the East and West Coast as much. They're willing to help out, I think, a little bit more. I'm a lot more friendlier with my neighbors here than I've ever been with any other place that I've ever lived.
So I hear Oklahoma girls are really pretty. Is that true?
From my experience, yes, they are.
What makes an Oklahoma girl so pretty, Nick? Is it their attitude, their looks? Are they friendly, cute? Are they, like, what is it about Oklahoma women?
They're just, I did not expect this question. I gotta think about this. Okay.
Hey guys, if you learned something new about America or what it's like to live in America, great. You should think about subscribing and turning on your notifications. You can also click one of these videos or playlists for more. You can also now buy my songs on iTunes and other formats. Click the link in the description. Thanks for watching. And remember, while we all might have different views, we should all be nice to each other and try to make the U.S. a better place in a positive way.
This is Sage, Nick's manager. This has been a Corner House Entertainment production.